Hey, what is up, Frig fam? Corbin here again from Northwest Scent. So today we're going to be doing a video where we're going to be going over some alternative fragrances to either more expensive fragrances, or maybe the fragrance, in my opinion, is just lesser, but for some reason it has more popularity than the alternative. So again, these are just my opinions, but what I can say about these fragrances is, unlike some alternative fragrance style videos where people maybe cover something that's in the similar style, can do similar things, but smells different, in my opinion, these are all quite similar. Some of these more so than others, but with all these you're definitely going to get some sort of just like reminder or remembrance of the original fragrance that we're going to be talking about. So again, 5 alternative fragrances to 5 more popular fragrances or 5 more expensive fragrances. If you guys want to hear all about these alternatives, then please stick around. But first, let's roll that intro. Alright guys, welcome back from the intro, and like I already said, today we're going to be talking about 5 amazing fragrance alternatives. And how the structure of this video is going to work is we're going to start with either the harder to find fragrance, the more expensive fragrance, or the lesser fragrance, the lesser version, and then we will move on to the alternative, the one that I think is better, the one that I'm actually recommending to you guys. So let's not hold off any longer, let's jump into the first fragrance. Okay, so starting the video off with the first fragrances that we're going to be talking about. Now, this is the only pair where I do not have the alternative or the recommendation for you guys, but I used to own it for a while, and actually the only reason I don't have it anymore is because I thought that these 2 fragrances we're about to talk about are so similar that I didn't need to own both of them. And so since I had multiple bottles of this one, this is the one I'm keeping. This is coming from the house of Yves Saint Laurent, and this is L'Homme Ultime, which is an amazing fragrance. This features rose, ginger, and cedar as some of the prominent notes, with a little bit of a sweet spice thrown in there like cardamom. Now this one, I will say, I think this is the better fragrance. Now you might be wondering, why am I recommending you guys an alternative to this one if I think this is really good, which it is. Wow. I mean, this stuff has been discontinued. It's pretty simple if you were unaware of that. This one is gone now. You can still find it for an okay price. It's definitely been jacked up a little bit from what it was originally selling for, but it's definitely gonna be way harder to find here in the future. And then there is an amazing alternative, like I already said, which I used to own, and that is Azzaro Ginger Lover. Now they are very, very similar, so much so that I believe that Azzaro actually looked at this fragrance and like for inspiration for Azzaro Ginger Lover. Essentially, the only difference is that that one is missing the rose that this one has. Again, they're both very similar. They're both very sweet, spicy. They do have a very crisp ginger that is, again, a little bit sweet, but it is also fresh and spicy. Just awesome fragrances overall. Again, very similar. Azzaro Ginger Lover does not have the rose note that this one has. It's kind of more of a drier rose, I guess you could say. It is, I think, a masculine leaning fragrance overall, which this is a masculine targeted fragrance. So that definitely makes sense. Just don't worry about the jammy rose, or like the rose being jammy in this fragrance. It's not. But again, my recommendation, because it is much cheaper and it is currently in production, so you will have a much easier time finding it, is again Azzaro Ginger Lover. So again, my first alternative that I'm recommending to this one right here, which is YSL's L'Homme Ultime, is Azzaro Ginger Lover. Okay, so moving on to the next fragrances that we're going to be talking about, we're going to be starting again with the one that I am not recommending to you guys. In the case of this one, I am not recommending it because it is discontinued. It's been discontinued for years and years at this point. It is extremely hard to find, and it is very expensive when you actually can find it. So this is coming from the house of Yves Saint Laurent, and this is Rive Gauche Pour Homme, which I do really enjoy this fragrance. It's a, I would say, very just classic kind of barbershop fragrance. It is like a shaving foam style of fougere, so it is creamy, it is soapy, it is a little bit fresh, spicy, and there's a touch of sweetness in here as well. But again, this is very much on that kind of creamy shaving foam side. It's very soapy, very clean again, so very put together, not something that is super like off the wall at this point or like unique. It just smells really classy and amazing. I like it a lot, but there is an alternative that I actually do prefer to this one quite a bit, and I'm also recommending that one because it is currently in production, so you can find it nowadays readily available. The alternative is coming from the house of Bulgari in the La Gem line, and this is Malakios, which I did do a, wow, I really love this stuff. I did a top 20 aromatic fougères list recently. I split it up into 2 videos. If you guys missed that, definitely go check them out. I put this one in my top 20, but this one was actually in my top 10. So I actually do prefer this to Rive Gauche, like just discontinuation aside and everything. If they were both still in production, I still do prefer Malakios from Bulgari, but they are quite similar at the same time. Again, this one, it's a creamy kind of barbershop style fougere, and they actually do share a lot of notes. They both have lavender, they both have star anise, they both have geranium, they both have guaiac wood, and they both have musk. So very similar fragrances. To my nose, this one is maybe a little bit less creamy and a little bit more plant-like, a little bit greener, maybe a little bit more fresh spicy, but it is still quite creamy and shaving foam-like at the same time. And again, just based on my personal taste, I do prefer this one quite a bit, and this actually does have really good performance, which a lot of the La Gem fragrances from Bulgari do have. So an awesome aromatic fougere. Again, very creamy, very shaving foam-like. Not many people know about this one. You should definitely check it out if you want to stand out a little bit. Again, I find this one maybe just a little bit more plant-like, a little bit greener, and because of that, I do find it to be a little bit more unique and appealing, of course, like I already said. So again, for my next fragrance alternative, the one that I'm recommending in place of Yves Saint Laurent's Rive Gauche is Bulgari La Gem line's Malakios. Okay, so moving on to the next fragrance alternative that we're going to be talking about. Again, similar to the previous ones we talked about with Yves Saint Laurent's Rive Gauche, I am recommending an alternative to this one because this has currently been discontinued. I think it got discontinued maybe a year ago at this point, and the prices of this have gone way up. Now it's selling for like $130, $140 when, you know, 2 years ago you could have found this for $50. So the price has gone way up. An amazing scent nonetheless. This is coming from the house of Thierry Mugler, and this is Pure Tonka, which I've talked about this many times. It is decently popular, but it is certainly underrated compared to, say, like Pure Havane or even Pure Malt as well. Those are very good fragrances, very popular, but I find this one to be equally as good, but for some reason the popularity is not there. The sales did not match it, and of course that's why it ended up getting discontinued. This centers around, of course, tonka bean, but you also get a heavy dose of coffee in here, as well as some cacao or chocolate, and then a lot of vanilla as well. So this is an ultimate gourmand. You know, it is very sweet, very kind of dense, syrupy. It smells very like perfect for the cold weather. This is not something you want to wear in the high heat like we're in right now here in the summertime. So an amazing fragrance. Again, been discontinued. I do have a really good alternative that smells strikingly similar. In fact, when I first picked up this alternative, I had no idea they had any similarities, but as soon as I smelled this, I instantly thought of Pure Tonka. That's how close these fragrances are, and I've even had people that have told me the same thing. So I'm not the only one that thinks this. This is coming from the house of Cartier, and this is Acqua di Cartier Parfum. It's kind of interesting. The note breakdown isn't very similar to Pure Tonka. This one does have tonka bean, but that's basically where the similarities end. This one also features a liquor note, sandalwood, and then benzoin as well. So I do find this one, again, very dense, very sweet. It is pretty creamy as well. There is a little bit more of kind of a green, almost balsamic feel with this one. This one does go in a little bit of kind of like a coniferous direction and maybe even a little bit of a fougere direction, but that's in the very smallest amount. For the most part, this thing is dense, sweet, powdery, very edible smelling. And again, this one has extreme similarities to Pure Tonka. I would say, like comparing the two, I would say this one's probably 80% similar. Like it is very strikingly close. So definitely check this one out if you guys are looking for an alternative to Pure Tonka. And I might even prefer this one just a little bit more, just based on the greener leaning tendencies that it has and those small kind of fougere aspects that I was talking about. So again, my third fragrance alternative here in the video, an alternative to Mugler's Pure Tonka, which is discontinued. I'm recommending to you guys Acqua di Cartier Parfum. Okay, so moving on to the next fragrance alternative, which I think we are at number 4 now. This one is coming from the house of Memo Paris, and this is Ocean Leather, which again, this is not the alternative. This is the fragrance that I'm recommending you get an alternative to. This one smells absolutely amazing. It is fruity, it is very bright and uplifting. It does kind of have a greener side to it, almost a little bit of a pininess to it. There's a resinous sweet side as well with a little bit of a balsamic feel, although this one is mostly fresh. There is a little bit of kind of an aquatic feel with this fragrance, but to me this leans a little bit more on that citrusy and green side, again with kind of a sweet balsamic resinous base. Now this one, Ocean Leather, of course, they are going after something that seems kind of aquatic, and like I said, there is a little bit of an aquatic feel to this this one, but I think it is kind of a misnomer because there's no leather in this fragrance at all. Like, I don't really pick it up, maybe the smallest touch in the dry down, but especially from the opening, you're getting none of that. So I think they could have kind of had this as its own fragrance, but it is kind of a creative naming, I guess you could say, so that's why they went with it. Nonetheless, you're gonna pay a lot of money for this. It's 75 milliliters and you're gonna pay like $200 or more. The alternative smells very, very similar to Ocean Leather, and it is coming from the house of Armani. So this is Acqua di Gio Profumo, which if you know, you know. One of the biggest comparisons that this fragrance gets is to Acqua di Gio. I think it could be to the original or Profumo. I find them decently similar just based on what I own. I find it similar to Profumo. Of course, they do feature sage as a similar note, but that's basically where it ends. You know, Ocean Leather, again, has citruses in it. There's a leather note apparently, and then some resins like elemi. This one features C notes. Again, you get that sage, but then there's also incense and patchouli in the base, which you do not see any of that in Ocean Leather. Regardless of that, they smell very similar. This one leans a little bit more aquatic, I would say, and also a little bit more dark at the same time, which that might sound weird how it could be more aquatic, which you would think fresh, but also darker. Well, that's because this one features incense and patchouli. In the dry down, it does kind of get that smoky, kind of sweet, almost leafiness coming from the patchouli. A really interesting fragrance and very popular for good reason. But again, it is very similar to Memo Paris's Ocean Leather. So if I had to recommend you one or the other, I would definitely recommend you this one coming from Armani. So again, for the fourth fragrance alternative, my recommendation to an alternative to this one right here, which is Memo Paris's Ocean Leather, would be this one called Armani's Acqua di Gio Profumo. Okay, and finally to the last fragrance alternative spot. Again, we're starting with the one that I'm not recommending. This is coming from the house of Carolina Herrera, I almost forgot the name, and this is Men Prive, which is a really good fragrance, don't get me wrong. Yeah, I really like this stuff a lot. It's got a fun little cap, you know, it's like a whiskey flask almost, but it doesn't perform very well, and there is another fragrance that I do find much better, and that smells very similar. This one features whiskey, there's leather in here, and then cardamom as well, so it's supposed to be boozy, of course kind of mysterious, maybe even a little bit animalic from the leather, and then fresh, spicy, and sweet as well. I'll be honest, I don't really get much booziness from it or a very heavy-handed leather. If it's in here, it is the most supple suede, but for me, it's not very detectable. I find it to be more fruity and again, sweet and spicy, a little bit dark at the same time, but again, not overly boozy or leather-like. There is an alternative that I find much better and about the same price, which is coming from the house of Jean Paul Gaultier, and that is Le Male Essence de Parfum. So you might be wondering why would I recommend this one? Well, they are very similar, and actually they are priced very similar as well. Again, the difference is I find this one to be just a better fragrance overall. I like the way it smells better. I think it performs better. I find it to smell a little bit more high quality. Not only that, you also get more juice here because this is a 125 milliliter bottle as opposed to the 100 ml right here, which you would pay about the same price for both of these bottle sizes. So overall, I find this one better. This one does not have the boozy note, it does not have the whiskey. Instead, it has lavender. So this one, of course, just like the rest of the Le Male line, which they do feature lavender and vanilla, this one has that. It's just a little bit more aromatic, but it is still very dark and mysterious with a fresh spiciness and a little bit of a fruitiness as well. They don't smell the exact same. They don't smell like one copied the other, but they're giving you very, very similar feels. And overall, I just like the way that this one smells better. I just think it gives an overall better vibe. Prefer it overall. And so again, I'm not saying that this is a bad fragrance. I'm just saying that personally, I prefer this one. So if you guys want something that gives you a similar vibe to Men Prive, but smells maybe a little bit more unique at this point, just because it is not as well known and just smells better overall, in my opinion, definitely check out this one from Jean Paul Gaultier, again called Le Male Essence de Parfum. Well, there you guys go. That was 5 amazing fragrance alternatives to either discontinued fragrances, more expensive fragrances, or maybe just a better fragrance overall, in my opinion. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you guys did, I would really appreciate dropping a like just to show your support, and then that way more people can see my videos on YouTube. Additionally, if you want to write a comment, maybe just let me know your thoughts, as well as some new video ideas or topics, that would be great too. And since you're down there doing all that stuff, if you've not already, if you could hit the subscribe button and then the bell notification, that would be amazing. That way you stay up to date on new videos whenever they get released going forward. But with all that out of the way, that's all I really have for you guys today. So I hope you have a good one, stay healthy, stay wealthy, and smell great.